A while back, we tackled the How to Train Your Dragon series and established our good to evil ranking. But today, we're going to take a look at the characters when it comes to their brains. After all, it's important to know which characters have the most wits, even when riding dragons into battle. I'm Kyle with Wicked Binge, and this is How to Train Your Dragon Dumb to Brilliant. For our first category, we have the practically brainless. This is reserved for those who have less than average intelligence, to put it nicely. For our gold medal of stupid, we have Snotlout's father, Spitlout. He's not given a whole lot of screen time between the shows and movies. When he did show up, it was clear who Snotlout got his pride and arrogance from.
Take that, you scaly lizard!
But we have to give him credit for showing he was willing to learn and adapt by the time the Race to the Edge series was released. Before this, we only really saw him when he was encouraging Snotlout's training in the first movie, or when he was aiding Stoic in finding the dragon nest. Our silver medal of stupid goes to the alphas. It might seem cruel to have them ranked towards the dimmer end of our spectrum, but we don't really get a whole lot of time with these creatures. When they were shown on screen, they went by instinct or were being controlled to some extent. With the alpha Drago had enslaved, it was essentially brainwashed and beaten into submission, as seen with the chains and scars adorning its body. On the other side of the fight, we see Valka and the alpha she had found. While Valka was working to protect the dragons, she still used the Bewilderbeast as a tool in the fight. When she shows the creature to hiccup, the Bewilderbeast makes a gesture of affection and shows patience when the offspring were running around.
Now, dragons used to be a bit of a problem here.
However, since it wasn't shown to think much for itself past that, we have to assume these dragons were driven by the need to protect their territory. They're not much concerned about the power over their fellow dragons. Our bronze medal of dumb goes to Barf and Belch. Unfortunately, they didn't receive as much time when it came to development, but in the short amount of time they do get, they show an attachment to the twins. Barf and Belch are often seen fighting with one another whenever the twins are having some sort of argument, mirroring their riders.
Not cool, T. Not cool at all.
Much like a child, they mimicked the behavior of the people they had become attached to. So it's hard to say how much of their actions aren't just Barge copying what's around them. Though lovable, Meatlug has to be placed on the lower end of the spectrum. Panting and grinning almost the entire time she's on screen, Meatlug acted a lot like a loyal dog. She recognized all of Fishleg's affection for what it was.
We already have flying dragons?
She responded by protecting her rider, even when it meant potentially getting hurt in the process. Though like her rider, Meatlug is often scared of whatever unusual thing is happening, but she does a good job pushing through it. Now we have one of the few kids in the show, Gustav, a kid who was seen to have admiration for Snotlout and so mimicked the dragon rider. But his idolation of Snotlout isn't why he gained such a low ranking. Gustav was one of those kids in a rush to grow up and prove themselves.
I'm not just anybody.
So he wound up creating more problems than he solved. For example, when Snotlout thought he was dying, claiming that he saw the 5 signs of Valhalla, Gustav had stepped up to try and be his replacement. During this scene, we get a moment where Gustav corrected Snotlout's counting. Later on, when he appeared during Race to the Edge, he tricked Dagger into helping Hiccup. Rounding out this category, we have the Light Fury. Though Furies are shown to be some of the more intelligent dragons, we had to place the Light Fury a bit low on the ranking, whereas Toothless was shown to be far more cunning when it came to getting away from captors. The Light Fury was continuously subdued by Grimmel, even before she and Toothless were officially mated. She didn't quite understand why Toothless was around humans, and got to the point where she knocked Hiccup off his back.
He's in love.
In her defense, she hadn't had any good experiences with humans herself, but one would think she would be quick to catch on to Toothless living among people when you consider his saddle and artificial tail. Next up, we have the grade school students. Our first spot in this section goes to Stormfly. Stormfly takes a lot of the characteristics of birds. The way she nests with the humans that she grows comfortable with,
Good girl.
the way she has to look for prey, and how she moves in general. But Stormfly is also shown to share the intelligence of many species of bird, when she was quick to learn new tactics and follow Toothless's lead a lot closer than the other dragons. The most well-known thunder drum of the series, Thornado, takes up the next spot. Being Stoic's first dragon, he was shown to be just as stubborn as the former chief of Berk.
Nah, you got to show these beasts who's boss.
However, Thornado was protective of his kind, and only attacked as a desperate measure to keep those around him safe. We see during his initial appearance that he was stealing fish to feed a fellow Thunderdrum that had an injured wing. The dragon bonded to Stoic after they worked together to protect the Thunderdrum from boars. He recognized Stoic as loyal and worthy of being seen as his rider. Up next, we have Stoic's other dragon, Skullcrusher. Like Thornado, Skullcrusher is shown to be fiercely protective, though he isn't as developed as Thornado.
You want a piece of me on the way down?
He has established his keen sense of tracking to find Hiccup and Astrid after leaving Berk to meet up with dragon trappers. After Stoic's passing, Skullcrusher is shown to warm up to Aerith, having grown close to the trapper after he had helped free Skullcrusher and the other dragons from Drago's ship. Hot-headed and with a legendary temper, Hookfang is up next. In the very first movie, Hookfang was the dragon Hiccup was meant to face and kill.
We don't have to kill them.
Seeing Hiccup throw aside his weapon and helmet, Hookfang's face clearly showed a moment of understanding. That is, up until Stoic scared the monstrous nightmare and triggered his fight or flight response. No pun intended. In the show, Hookfang is often seen rolling his eyes and becoming impatient with Snotlout's arrogant behavior or poorly thought out plans. However, he does care for his rider. We also get a conflicting episode where Hookfang is forced to choose between obeying his rider and caring for a vulnerable dragon that was being attacked by another male monstrous nightmare. The whole ordeal made it clear that Hookfang wasn't only driven by instinct, but was well aware of his actions and how his behavior was affecting Snotlout. After his dragon, we have the ever-modest Snotlout.
Obviously, what's your point?
He doesn't come up with the best plans, math isn't his strong suit, and he's pretty much delusional about his own capabilities. But there have still been moments where Snotlout was able to prove himself as a capable Viking. And it helps that there were more than a few people among Berk that looked to Snotlout as superior to them because he was able to outsmart them. Snotlout isn't able to take on much of a leadership role. Still, his competitive nature led to him figuring out his own strengths and adapting his abilities as a rider in his own way. Moving on, we have Volka's dragon, Cloudjumper.
This wasn't a vicious beast.
Like many of the dragons mentioned on our list, Cloudjumper was a supportive ally. He was one of the few dragons to approach humans with curiosity, rather than attack mindlessly out of fear of displeasing the queen. When Volka found him, he had seen Hiccup as offspring rather than as potential prey, and spared Volka's life out of curiosity. We still couldn't rank him any higher though, since Cloudjumper also stole someone away from their home without truly understanding what that meant. Rounding out this category, we have the twins, Roughnut and Toughnut. Since they're almost always shown on screen together, we feel like it makes sense to place them together as well. Having dedicated their lives to Loki, the god of mischief, much of their originality went into creating traps and pulling pranks on the other residents of Berk. While they are outsmarted and the butts of people's jokes almost regularly, we couldn't drop them any lower. Toughnut was, after all, the one to figure out among their people that the Earth was round, reasoning that it made sense as the sun and moon were round. Toughnut was also a trustworthy solo dragon sitter when Dagger was being kept from finding out about their dragons, keeping Toothless and the others where they wouldn't be spotted. Though Roughnut royally messed up in the third movie by leading Grimmel to them, she's also incredibly loyal. At one point, she was willing to die to keep her friends safe, encouraging the enemy to do his worst.
I'm more worried about them.
Now we get to the average folk. These guys are, as the name implies, pretty average in terms of intelligence. Not too smart, not too dumb. Normal. Moving on to Alvin. A leader of the outcasts, he was revealed to be a former friend of Stoic's before they fought over Volka in their younger years. This led to Alvin becoming more and more bitter towards the people of Berk, constantly trying to think of ways to overpower them.
And we'll ride dragon.
Eventually, his plans centered around stealing the Book of Dragons and trying to train a dragon army of his own. But Alvin didn't really have the patience or know-how to really make any of it stick, leading to him getting defeated again and again. A former pest of Berk, Mildew is next. Mildew was one of the older residents of Berk. He was also the only one on the island to demand the dragons be hunted down after Hiccup began training them.
Oh, there is a problem, Stoic.
Mildew was constantly egging the village on, pointing out any inconvenience the dragons caused. He gained a higher ranking due to a few of his schemes nearly being successful. He also almost pulled off creating a fake crime scene using false dragon prints and scorch marks. And he attempted to use Alvin's need for power to help rid Berk of dragons for good. Moving on to the treacherous Trader Johan. He gained a bit of a higher spot since he could use his trade route to gather information and relayed it to anyone who either frightened him enough or paid him good money. Though he was a coward, you have to admit he was very knowledgeable of all the people he encountered and dealt with. Sure, he didn't know everything, but his information was always valuable when he was interrogated by Hiccup.
The things I've seen.
Moving on to Gobber. He doesn't do well reading a room,
Trolls exist. They steal your socks, but only the left ones.
but he was also the one to persuade Stoic to allow Hiccup to train as a dragon hunter. He knew that Hiccup was a stubborn kid who wasn't going to quit just because people told him to. Gobber wasn't the best when he tried to help Stoic. If it wasn't a task that had to do with making weapons or going into battle, he was shown to struggle a lot with finding his place. When he attempted to help relieve Stoic's workload in the village, he wound up making more problems than he fixed. But he eventually found his place assisting dragons with their teeth after learning why a monstrous nightmare was rampaging through Berk. Moving on to Heather. She was an interesting one to place. Though she could be very manipulative, she was also very easily swayed. Every time Heather had a goal, she was a determined fighter who wanted to see it through to the end. But it wasn't often that she fulfilled what she set out to do.
How much does he weigh exactly?
Her loyalty was almost always in question. It wasn't until she finally established a home that she finally gained some stability. Thronk rounds out this category. He was a trusted warrior who carried out anything tasked to him.
We shall not fail you, my queen.
He was able to break Hiccup free from Savage, helped Heather keep lava from reaching the Defender village, and saved his queen on multiple occasions. Not only was he a capable fighter, but he knew when to stand down and find a different method of obtaining his goal. Our next section is the College Bound. These are the characters who are just a stone throw away from the top, proving that they almost have the most wits, but fall just short. Starting out with Drago, his overall goal was to be feared and gain respect through having people tremble at his very name. Of all the villains through the show and movies, he was likely one of the most short-sighted. Drago didn't see any issue with making people and dragons bend to his will. It didn't even cross his mind that those under his thumb might eventually rebel. He wasn't able to take Hiccup seriously as an opponent, assuming that killing Stoic would break the young chief, and his arrogance was eventually his downfall, with him being unable to maintain his Bewilderbeast being alpha.
You belong to me now.
Next up, we have Eret, son of Eret. Once a man who worked for Drago, he did what he thought he needed to survive.
Always great to see you, my friend.
When Hiccup first arrived on his boat to try and make peace, he was rightfully suspicious. During the scene, it's easy to see Eret is the most quick-witted of his fellow trappers. He rushes away when he realizes what Hiccup's sword can do and reluctantly warms up to the rider before Stoic and Gobber show up. In the end, he was able to see Hiccup and Astrid's perspective and helped them escape from Drago's clutches. Though he clearly doubted the man could be stopped, he knew it was worth trying. An intellectual of Berk and a dragon enthusiast, next up is Fishlegs. From the start, Fishlegs took pride in the fact that he memorized all he could about dragons known to their people, and the more species that were uncovered throughout the show, the more evident this passion became. But Fishlegs was also a local historian, becoming a go-to person for discussing the traditions of their people.
You found a new friend.
Fishlegs was even shown to be able to build a boat from scratch with only Meatlug to help him carry supplies, which we have to admit is really impressive. Up next, we have Riker. He's considered less impressive than his brother Vigo, often having to go along with whatever plan he comes up with. But this didn't mean that he was useless when left on his own.
You had worry about yourself.
On more than one occasion, Riker was able to capture riders with their dragons and subdue them. Every time they escaped, it was revealed that Riker knew they had the opportunity. Every time, he used their escapes as a way to contact Vigo, or to create a new method of gathering information with Dagger and Heather. Our next spot goes to the Night Fury, Toothless. Toothless was shown to grow more resourceful the more time he spent around Hiccup. He was able to finally bond with Hiccup, recognizing all that the small Viking was doing for him, feeding him, helping him fly again, and just generally bonding together. Toothless was also able to achieve what was considered impossible and take the title of Alpha from the Bewilderbeast in order to save his rider.
He's challenging the Alpha!
Taking our next spot is Astrid. The first to discover Hiccup's secret, she became a valuable aid to Hiccup whenever he faced a new trial. She was able to utilize both cunning and old-fashioned brawn to get her way. She was the only one to remain suspicious of Heather throughout the series, reminding the others of the past betrayal the other girl put them through.
I just don't trust her.
Though she didn't always have a clear plan to offer, she was always around to offer advice that could be used to some extent. She had been the one to finally persuade Eret to join them through a mix of threats and coercion, and had helped convince their people to leave Berk. Next up is Hiccup's mother, Volka. The first official dragon rider, she went from trying to kill a dragon to protect her child to using her capture as a chance to learn more about them. Though Night Furies were hunted almost to extinction, Volka was able to gather enough information to help Hiccup learn about Toothless's spikes and helped her son learn about the Bewilderbeasts. However, all the dragon knowledge in the world didn't change the fact that she was stubborn in her own way. Through the second film, she flat out didn't believe Hiccup when he stated that Berk had changed and accepted dragon riding.
How could I have done this?
Though she had various chances to go home and be with her family, she didn't. She could have been the one to make those first steps to change the villagers' minds, but she chose an easier route instead. A queen of her people and fellow rider, next up is Molly. She hadn't been certain of the rider's intentions at first. When Hiccup offered an alliance to aid her people, she eventually agreed and even ordered protection for the riders. Through various trust exercises, she was even able to overcome her initial distrust of Dagger and join forces with him. The entire team banded together to fight off the flyers that threatened her people. She could be awkward and easily seen as a threat at times though, such as when the twins thought she was planning to kill Dagger. Still, she was always able to stay level-headed and sort out any misunderstanding. One of the most cunning foes Hiccup faced, we have Dragon Trapper Vigo. His impressive dragon knowledge matched Hiccup's own, which was shocking in the days before the riders knew about Volka. Vigo was concerned with capturing dragons, using them as a way to gain profit. He knew how to use the dragon eye to hunt down more species and nests, and was determined to use Hiccup and the other riders to make his own life easier. But what really places Vigo here on our list wasn't his schemes. We're giving him the higher placement because he was able to learn and adapt from Hiccup's teachings in his final days. After he had been saved by a dragon, he put his former ideologies aside to learn more about the dragons from Hiccup's perspective.
Go. I'll hold them off until you're out.
One of the most notable villains of the TV series, Dagger the Deranged, is next. Though Dagger had been tricked and imprisoned by Hiccup, he was smart enough to know when enough was enough. He was able to rise above petty rivalry and seek Hiccup for help by the time Race to the Edge was airing.
Seems a little too easy.
Dagger was also one of the few Vikings shown throughout the series that strategized and stayed 5 moves ahead. He was rarely down for very long. Rounding out our gifted category, we have Stoic the Vast. Stoic was regarded as a wise leader, but he wasn't all-knowing. He was the man seen as one of the brightest minds of Berk. That reputation and his title as the Chief of Berk led to Stoic being the man people went to for advice and aid.
Out with the old and in with the new, right?
Though Stoic liked to stick to tradition, he was much more flexible after the first movie. During the series, he was willing to learn from his son and follow Hiccup's lead. He was aware that dragon riding wasn't his specialty, having been trained as a dragon hunter. In the first film, Stoic used Toothless to find the nest, using every hint from Toothless to navigate the ships through the dangerous waters. Even Stoic's final moments during this second movie displayed his ability to think quickly and to respond to a threat. Finally, we get to our last category, the geniuses. The bronze medal of brains goes to the wise woman Gothi. Through the series, she was someone that people went to for help.
Gothi, she'll know what to do.
She provided advice, medicine, and even weather forecasts. Much like Stoic, she was a go-to in times of uncertainty, even when it came to Stoic and Hiccup. She was the one that was in charge of deciding who would face the monstrous nightmare in the first movie, and then declared Hiccup as the new chief after Stoic's passing. She's the oldest known member of the Hooligan tribe, and definitely uses that experience to her advantage. Our silver medal of brains has to go to Grimmel the Grizzly. Seen as the main antagonist of the third movie, he was shown to match Hiccup's intellect and was a worthy adversary. The entire time he hunts down Toothless with a level head, using his knowledge of Night Furies to predict Hiccup's every move, and eventually makes the duo vulnerable. Grimmel was able to utilize the Light Fury to play on Toothless's instinct of protecting his only mate, creating a wedge between the dragon and Hiccup. Grimmel's downfall was one split-second choice he made, grabbing onto Hiccup's prosthetic to get the rider to fall. That decision wound up with Grimmel himself falling to his death.
And now our little game must come to an end.
And with that said, our gold medal of brains has to go to Hiccup. The very beginning of the first film established that Hiccup's curiosity often got him into trouble, but that same need to learn and adapt led to Hiccup becoming the renowned dragon master he would later become. From a young age, Hiccup used his experience working in the forge to create interesting traps and weapons. He was able to do the unthinkable and shoot down the unattainable Night Fury.
I have brought down this mighty beast!
If that wasn't impressive enough, he was then able to use Toothless as a way to learn about dragons, turning a once feared predator into an ally. Even when Hiccup was put into positions where he shouldn't have been able to fly, he was able to use the young hatchlings to ride. Hiccup was able to find ways to turn the island into a utopia for dragons and their riders. He also utilized dragon skin to make armor. During Race to the Edge, Hiccup was able to figure out how to use Dragon Eye through Toothless. Throughout the entire series, we see Hiccup improving the tools he was able to create, including his own leg prosthetic. But let us know in the comments section if you agree with our ranking, and tell us who you think is the smartest character in How to Train Your Dragon. Remember to hit that notification bell and binge our Dumb to Brilliant playlist, where we figure out which characters have the most wits. But most importantly, stay wicked.